Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel, and today's video is likely gonna be one of the harder ones I ever have had to make. In large part, typically I like to avoid talking about personal issues or, well, things that aren't overly MCOC related. However, this in fact does closely connect to how the channel is going to look like and what I will personally be doing. Therefore, I am making the video as such, and eventually we're going to get to the main changes to the channel and in my life as well. Right, before I get into any further points, I want to make something very brutally clear. I am not looking for anybody's pity or compassion or anything of the sort. It's much more just me telling what has happened, maybe over somewhat longer period of time in my life, without getting too much into detail. And what does that mean for me now? And what am I going to be doing on YouTube going forward? Right. And again, without trying to get into everything to the finest detail, I moved to UK when I wasn't even 20 years old, with effectively what was like 50 pounds and a suitcase. And I arrived in perfect health, and I spent entirety of that time being full-time employed and doing tons of overtime. In fact, I worked so hard that I continuously overworked myself, and over time accumulated more and more persistent, well, injuries and health issues. Unfortunately, now that I have hit my 30s, all of them are rapidly coming back and catching up with me, and that has made for incredibly difficult last year and a half, to a point where I also had to deal with a depression that was largely caused by the same issues. And the most pressing one certainly is to do with my back, as I am quite a tall guy, and over last year now, I think I have basically spent every single day wearing two back braces and on painkillers. And it was only recently when I started properly addressing all of these issues, seeking more help. And I have to go to physical therapy now, and there is a whole bunch of other tests and things that I have to undergo to see whether doctors can even fix it up in any meaningful way, or it's just going to be a matter of taking some painkillers for the rest of my life and other stuff, whatever. But at the same time, part of that was because of my mindset. And as I was growing up, I got taught a fundamental thing of that, like, if you're an adult, you have to work. If you're not working, if you not don't have, if you're not employed, effectively you're failing and you're a burden of society. And it was very black and white. And where I'm from, everybody who wakes up in the morning and goes to work was a decent and upstanding citizen, at least in that aspect of life, even if they had other shortcomings. And if you were unemployed or you weren't doing anything with your life, you were effectively a loser, a burden. And that was very large part of my mindset for, well, pretty much up until now, and partially even still now, because I haven't completely walked away from that idea. However, there was a thing that did change, and that was when this whole COVID thing started. I spent periodic amounts of time on furlough, which obviously didn't quite help me out financially, but due to UK schemes and stuff like that, even though it was again significantly less than I was used to, I basically got forced into, let's call them, relatively long vacations. And over the last couple of times when I got furloughed for like 2 weeks and then like 10 days, close to the New Year's, I had a change in my attitude without changing anything directly, well, without trying to change it. I just somehow found myself having a different approach to doing YouTube videos and to getting up early, because for first time in my life, I didn't need work to get out of bed in the morning. I was setting the same alarm, and I was getting out and I was doing videos instead, because that was how I could put my mind at ease, at least to a degree, as in like I was trying to make myself as productive and useful as I could, because that had been my viewpoint at life. And because of that, I noticed it myself whenever I wasn't at work. Let's say when I had some holidays that I had to take because time was running out, and I didn't have any obligations for the day, I always like overslept, and I got out of bed at like 9:30 or 10 o'clock, or sometimes even on weekends, and so on and so forth. Because if I didn't have any obligations for that set day, I often tended to waste those days. I woke up late, I couldn't kind of like get my day started, and before I knew it, it was already 3 or 4 p.m. and I had done exactly nothing aside from maybe had a shower, had something to eat, and watched some videos or movies. But that changed, and that was a very, very big change for me, because I had never really experienced that before, when I had something else besides work, besides my day-to-day Monday to Friday or whatever kind of hours I'm doing. And it's not as much that I enjoyed it, which I did, but it was more so that it all of a sudden gave me a different alternative and mindset. Oh, it isn't just work that can get me out of the bed in the morning. It can also be this. And why am I saying this? Why am I saying this? Is because, as I mentioned before, my health had been quite suddenly declining, unfortunately, to a point where I am pretty much unable to work normally, at the very least. Where, yeah, it's harder than ever. I have quite large conglomeration of health issues that I always delayed. I always use the excuse that I'm busy, I don't have time, I have to be at work, because I was also almost always in relatively serious positions where I was in charge of people and processes, and I had to make sure that the job is done. My work wasn't necessarily to go every time to a place and do something. My work was much more in the capacity of make sure the things that need to be done are done. And I often use that as an excuse to forego my holidays or skip my lunch breaks, and well, needless to say, uh, not book in doctor's appointments or skip them, and so on and so forth. And now I'm at the point where I physically cannot do that anymore. So, due to that, unfortunately, tomorrow is the last day that I'm employed. Now, we reached basically a mutual agreement with my employer, and yeah, it all ended up with basically me terminating my employment contract, which sucks. Which is going to be first time in my adult life, or at the very least, like last 10 years or so, that I'm going to be unemployed, or rather self-employed in this case, because I do have a YouTube channel. Right. So why am I saying that? Because I have decided to put a different priority on my life, at least for the next year or however long it takes. And that is to do what I can to actually try and salvage what's left of my health. As most importantly, my back, but there's a whole bunch of other things that I need to address that are all quite scary, to be honest, but one thing at a time. For now, if I'm able, for as long as I'm able, I will try to do YouTube exclusively, as I try to get in all my doctor's appointments, my physio, and basically get myself properly tested, examined, and worked on. And yeah, so I don't know how long that's gonna last. And truth be told, I don't even know if I can afford, or whether this will work, or whether I'm gonna have to somehow find perhaps an easier job or easier means of being employed doing some data entry or data input or something else. But for now, for upcoming couple months at the very least, depending on how well or poorly I will be doing both on YouTube and in doctor's office, I will be effectively spending my days making YouTube videos and trying to do the best of my job. And that leads to final 2 points. What does it mean for the channel? Quite obviously, I have been trying recently to increase the quality of the uploads and also trying to increase the quality of the content that I can put out, and also will try to dabble in editing and make the videos and content more appealing. So, well, first and foremost, any feedback what you think should be improved on the channel definitely be greatly appreciated. But another thing that is also quite interesting and exciting that I will be able to do significantly better now, that I will not be spending majority of my waking hours at some office or warehouse, but right here. It also means that I can finally start to set my schedule. And that was, I believe, at least I personally think, one of the weak points of me doing YouTube in general, because everything was very sporadic and very chaotic. And obviously, I don't have the schedule worked out in its entirety, and due to the nature of Marvel Quest of Champions, there will be certain flexibility needed. But the very first thing, the very first big commitment that I am making right now is that I will be streaming every morning at 8:30 GMT. So it's very early UK time. It's probably gonna be past midnight in States. But that is how I have decided that I will want to start my days, again, just so I have that reason to set up that alarm, just so I can actually get something done early on in the day, and then go from there past the stream, either it is to do whatever else is needed to be done in the day. So Monday to Saturday, I will be streaming every morning from 8:30 GMT. And that is the first kind of like set in stone thing. And hopefully, not too long after first couple of weeks, I will be able to put a maybe slightly more concrete framework on the evening stream, which I will be trying to do as well. So hopefully I'm going to get squeezed in 2 streams daily, and then uploads. Obviously, we'll have to see what's happening in Marvel Quest of Champions. And on top of that, as I said, I will try to experiment with some new things, and just try to make sure the channel looks more attractive overall. But the biggest thing, and perhaps the main reason that I am making this video, because I wanted to say huge thank you to every single one of you who have subscribed. Especially huge thank you to those of you who frequently hang out in streams. The 3 biggest shoutouts that I can possibly give out will be to Real Sensei, Mr. WTF, and Messiah, because if it wasn't for the support of 3 of them specifically and their generosity, because right now, let me be clear, I am also talking about the financial support and financial side of it. If it wasn't for those 3 people specifically helping me, I would have never had the courage to finally put my health above being employed. or stop procrastinating with those things. And that is a very huge shift in my priorities, which are not always obviously now in hindsight correct. Because unfortunately, up until now in my life, I always prioritized being employed and having stable mean of income over pretty much everything else. And now I'm gonna have to, well, deal with it. But that is it. That's all I wanted to say for now. So, huge thank you to you guys, because without you, I would have never even had a choice. And only things that I could do would be suck it up or try and go on disability and the whole benefits side, or I don't even know. That is the point. I don't even know what my options would have been and whether I would have had any options. But here we are. So thank you for those of you who have enjoyed the channel, and hopefully for those of you who are starting to enjoy the channel or are gonna do it in future. I don't know. That is it, and yeah, thank you guys. See ya.